can see your face.
Okay.
Now it's started.
Okay. So hey guys, this is Sayanto, and I have Dhanik along with me and other folks as well. So today we are starting our new session. The session is basically if you aspire to become a project lead or a team lead in or for a Salesforce project or for any technology project. I won't say that it is specific to Salesforce, but it can be based upon any technology. But if you are aspiring to become a project lead or team lead, this session might be helpful for you people. Now, having said that, we have divided this particular session into three portions, and today is the first portion of that. And um, today, basically, we would be covering our first topic. Now, before starting the topic, let me give some introduction about me. So, myself, Sayanta Dandapot, and I am a Salesforce delivery lead in IDFC First Bank, and I have total 17 plus of years of experience, and I have delivered almost 7 plus successful project. Among that, I have worked mainly with dev team. I have worked with QA team. I have worked with business analyst. I have worked with business. I worked with multiple clients, and among the clients, I have worked for SEPTA, Sunrail. Those are US-based transportation project. I have worked for Pfizer, a renowned pharmaceutical project. I have worked for some of the banking projects inside. I mean for TCS. Okay, and currently I am working for IDFC First Bank as well. So now the intention of this session is pretty clear. I want to make it clear that this session is all about a middle experienced people or little bit senior of experienced folks who would like to handle the team as an architect and as a delivery lead. Along with that, I have around 4 Salesforce certification in my bucket and my LinkedIn and Twitter, as you are able to see. Okay, so this is about the brief introduction about me, and now let's start the session. So the session basically about the agenda, right? So today's agenda is about what or how we can deliver a successful project end to end, from starting from project planning and delivering into the production system, how we can manage, right? How we can manage the entire delivery. Now, having said that, the entire delivery, we have many things in our bucket, right? So we have a process. We need to show a quality of the code. We need to follow the coding best practices. We need to communicate to client on a regular basis. But above all, the primary foundation is basically where we need to start to prepare a team, where your complete baseline will start. Okay, so today's agenda is basically your team selection. Okay, now along with the team selection, we have multiple other topics which are evolving around that, which are knowledge and experience about the team, the aptitude of the team's candidate or team's resources, the attitude of the resources, how we can conduct the interview process to select the proper team, then how we can prepare a backup planning, and how we can communicate on a regular basis with the resources and with the management level. So these are the agendas, but the basic agenda, guys, it is a team selection, because the team would be responsible for the entire delivery, whether it is a dev team, whether it is a QA or business analyst team, or whether it is a deployment team or the release team. Okay, so everything basically is a team basis work. Now, the more efficient you would be forming the team, your delivery would be more smoother. And that time, I mean, you do not have to worry much if you have a good team. So what are the basic rules that how you can form a good team, how you can identify the talent, how you can prepare the backup, right? So these are the details which we are going to talk about. Now, the first thing, the project delivery, as we said, right, that we have the phases. As we know, we have a planning phase, we have executing phase, we have a monitoring phase. These are the basic phases we know as a project planning. And once we have these phases, how we can plan a project, that also we know that we need to define the scope, we need to freeze the scope, and then we need to create the project plan, we need to prepare the resource plan, and we need to show that particular plan details to the business, to the client, and to the senior management. But everything would be based upon your team. Now, if you have been given a responsibility to prepare a team from scratch, you need to find certain parameters, you need to adhere certain model. And if you have been given an existing team members team, then you should have a different planning. But the basic rules remains same. Now, what are the basic rules? How basically we can identify that the team members who are coming, they are really good or not? What are the best ways that we can form a proper team? Or if we have an existing team, how we can make them more efficient? These are the details we will be showing into the upcoming slides. First is, guys, the team selection, right, which is the most important factor. Let's say that you have been asked, hey, can you form a team? Can you form a Salesforce developers team, or a QA team, or a Salesforce business analyst team, which would make sure that our delivery can happen within the timeline, within the cost, and within the proper guidelines? The basic rule is that for to do that, you have to select the team, and one by one team members you have to choose very, very carefully. Do not bias that this is a reference from my ex-colleague, this is a reference from my boss. Okay, always see that how much knowledge that guy is having. If the guy is having a proper knowledge, proper experience, please give a chance, please fight for that particular resource, and make a way inside your team. That guy can be a reference from your prior company, or he can be your some he can be from some valuable reference. But while taking the interview, while evaluating him, do not bias. And in case you select a candidate, give a proper reason that this particular candidate has this strong areas, and these are the areas the candidate needs to improve. Okay, so in that way you can resolve some of the conflicts. Let's say that your boss has referred one particular candidate and you reject him. Now you should have a proper justification that this guy won't fit inside our project because this guy lacks into Salesforce integration part, and at this moment we need a Salesforce integration guy who is pretty good in integration. Or let's say that in your project, as per the current requirement or the current challenges, you need a guy who is very good into the deployment part, because you know that how much challenges we have inside Salesforce or in any technology where basically you need a good deployer. And at that moment, you have a reference who is good at the coding level, but not good at the deployment level. At that particular time, please tell to the management that at this moment, this candidate doesn't have that particular fitting about the deployment part. But yes, the guy is good into coding, so we may take as a backup if you have the proper budget. But anytime, do not compromise while you are selecting a team. The team selection, you should have multiple parameters, like you should have a budget, you should have a proper mixture of experienced candidate and some fresher candidate and some lead candidate, right? So at that moment, you have to think all the parameters and you have to choose the right candidate. Having said that, the most important factor in our day-to-day team selection is the interview process. Now, let's say, guys, how many of us basically, I mean, ask the person who actually appears for a dev role, we ask to write the code. Nowadays, at least in my experience, I have seen very few lead or very few people has been asked to write down the code. Now everybody basically knows about a particular technology from internet, almost everything, right? But while you ask them to write down the code, if you have a dev requirement, that time you will see that how efficient that guy is. Whether he is able to write the code or not, you just ask him to open the notepad, give a scenario, and ask him that, hey, can you please write down the code for me? This is a simple process. Now, to do that, you can have multiple options. Let's say that you ask a particular person to open Google as well. At least he can or she can take the help from Google, because in his day-to-day work, he will do the same thing, right? He will just open the Google, he will copy and paste the particular piece of code, but he should know, the developer should know that what to copy and where exactly basically his requirement is fitting and what exactly he needs to take from the internet. So that are some approaches basically you can think about. Now, in this way, you can make sure that the guy, whatever they are basically coming, or they have been asked, they are able to write down the code properly, then they may fit properly. Let's say that if you are taking a business analyst interview, and you can ask that what are the scenarios basically he can think about if it is a banking project, right? So you can ask him, you can ask her, can you please write down a flowchart? Can you please write down a diagram, right? And in that diagram, can you show all the flows? And there, what are the challenges may arise? And what are the flaws can happen in case of any exception? So these are the things basically you can ask, which may be a hands-on type of things. If you ask a directly verbal question, which are really and readily available into the internet, you might not be able to get a right candidate through the interview process. So interview process is a very, very critical thing, and in that process, please do not compromise. If you ask just to open Google and take code snippet from Google, and if you ask them, can you please write down and can you please run the code, there is nothing wrong into that. In my journey of total IT experience, I have seen many times the big product companies, they always ask that you open the Salesforce org, you just write down the code and you run the code inside your personal org. And that is the way basically they attract the true talent. But many of the organizations, they do not even ask basically to write down the code. And when the candidate just comes on board, that time the candidate won't be able to write a proper code and people get surprised. And then the real challenges comes up. Then you do not know that how you will deal with that particular candidate, right? So and in case if you have any other things that, okay, you are confused, you are not confident, then you can always ask for a second round. But this is the key process, guys. This interview, you have to be very, very careful. Now, you as a technical person may not have that ability to evaluate, right? Because you may be expert into leading a team, you may be expert to deal with the business, you may be a functional expert. So identify one candidate who is good in technical, who is very sound in technical, and you have a full confidence on that guy that yes, if he takes the interview, then the interview candidates should come in a proper knowledgeable person. Just ask that candidate or ask that particular person to be, a driver for the interview panels. So this is the basic, guys, for the interview process. Coming to knowledge and experience. So the second thing is, this is the second parameter, which is the base of this team selection. Now, you may say that sometimes experience really matters. But tell me one thing. Let's say that if I am around 10 years of experience and I do not have the knowledge, right? What is this 10 years of experience will prove about me? Do you really think that if a candidate is 10 years of experience and he doesn't have a proper knowledge, he doesn't know as per the project, he doesn't fit as per the project requirement, if you tell to management that, hey, I have hired a 10 years candidate guy, will it be fruitful for the project delivery? Will it help the project? No, it cannot help the project, because the knowledge is the key thing over here. The candidate should have the knowledge. In my experience, I have seen that candidate with 2 years of experience, with a proper attitude, with a proper dedication, can drive our 5 members of team who are much more experienced than him or than her. Believe me, I have seen that one candidate with just 1.5 years of experience, she has a proper knowledge, a proper attitude, and she was driving a 6 members of team who are basically much more experienced as a number, as a count, as a years of experience. But when they just saw her dedication, they just saw her knowledge, they just started obeying her. There was some conflict came at the initial days, but eventually things will be smoother. So this is where basically you have to think about. Do not go with the number that, yes, I would be hiring only a candidate who has 5+ of experience or 10 years plus of experience. Yes, that is a requirement from requisition perspective. That can be a requirement from client perspective. But for your delivery perspective, that may not work all the time. In that case, always go with the proper knowledgeable person more than the count, more than the number of years of experience. Hope I am clear on this. Now, having said that, you should always focus the other parameters. The other parameters are you may think that okay, I need to take a candidate who should be good into technology, who should be good into writing the code, and who should be good into the deployment as well. But that may not happen all the time. A candidate cannot be all rounder, right? So knowledge perspective also, if a candidate is having 1% of expertise, the other portion you can make her prepare, right? Or you can make him prepare. So you can guide him, you can give a proper mentor, and eventually that will make the candidates as all-rounder candidate. So the knowledge, experience, all-rounding abilities, these are some key parameters where you need to think about while picking up the right candidate. Number 3, the attitude versus aptitude, which is the most common things nowadays. And I would just define, I mean, one of my favorite video, what Harsha Bogle basically said in a YouTube video. So there was an incident. So the incident was when always whenever just we think about aptitude, right? So we always think about a right talented person, and the talented person, none other than Sachin Tendulkar, comes into our mind, right? And but we really think that that is basically the talent basically makes Sachin for everything. That's not really right. So I mean, if you would have not followed the video, you can just go directly into YouTube and you can search for that, and you can see that not only Sachin's aptitude or talent basically made him Sachin Tendulkar, it's all about his attitude, his hard working attitude. Every day and night basically he trained, he just spent almost 10 to 12 to 16 hours a day into the ground, and that basically made Sachin Tendulkar. At the similar time, right, we all know Sachin's one of the most best friend, right? Vinod Kamli was there, but he lost a complete battle because he had that talent, but where was the attitude? He doesn't have that attitude. He was just a person that who thought that he will utilize his talent and he will make everything at his grip, but which didn't happen. So in today's world also, if you see that the candidate is lacking about some aptitude, and the candidate is having a proper attitude, is a hardworking guy, you think that he can be turned into a hardworking guy, right? Give him a chance, give her a chance. But yes, at the very beginning of the interview process, you may not be thinking, or you may not judge that whether this guy would be a hardworking guy or not. But that's where your experience would be coming into the picture while selecting the team, while picking up the right candidate. You will be I mean, driving the complete vehicle, and that time you would be seeing the things that whether the candidate may have a proper attitude in going further or not. In today's world, we have seen that many people, many famous developer or many famous QA people, at least in my experience, I have seen they are from very generic B grade college or very A grade, not from very renowned colleges of India, but they really worked hard, and they basically became one of the most critical resources of many projects, right? However, if you see at the similar time, there are many candidates who are from prestigious institutions of India's, they basically didn't sign in that particular manner, because it is all about their attitude. The attitude basically matters the most. Even if a candidate doesn't have the aptitude and the candidate is truly hardworking, if the candidate is really can motivate himself and he really aspire to become a good coder, a good QA, you have to give a fair chance, and in that chance you will build a strong team. So always try to get that attitude, try to find out that particular attitude inside the candidate. Now, to find out the candidate, that your experience will always gives you the benefit, and in that way you would be able to get a right candidate. Now here basically we have just tried to show that what is aptitude and what are attitude, right? As I said that many candidates who are from the prestigious institution, they are due to their attitude or due to their chalta hai things. I mean, many projects basically didn't able to deliver a successful result. However, a team with very generic and very common people from very B grade, or I would say that A grade colleges, they made a super deliverable teams. So this is one point where basically you can think about and you can build our team. Now, the third thing is that the project requirement versus the right candidate, right? Now, let's say that in your project you have you are building a team, and where you have already filled up one team lead position, you have already filled up a senior dev position, and now you want another person who basically needs to fill up the deployment or deployer position. So in that case, what you can do, that you always give a focus as a priority for the deployment perspective. And if you see that, yes, I am getting a good candidate and the candidate is super into the coding part, I would rather suggest you cannot consider. Yes, sometimes you may publish your requirement or the job description during the job portal advertisement. But sometimes you can see that there are many candidates comes who has the other knowledges, irrespective the description whatever basically has been written into the job portal, right? So you have to be very much careful about choosing the right candidate. Let's say that you have a team lead position and you are getting a particular person who are very good into the coding. In that case, you can think about that, okay, let's hire that candidate, let's groom him up, and let's give him the opportunity. He has the proper attitude, he has the proper knowledge, right? And groom him up, okay? And you can make a right candidate. So though you are not hiring as a team lead or project lead, you are hiring as a senior developer, but with your right attitude, with your motivation, you can make that particular candidate as the project best fit. Let's say that if you have a project requirement as a deployer, right? You want somebody should be familiar with all the deployment tools, pipelines, and Salesforce Visual Studios, all other things, right? Or Ant tool. So you see that the candidate is having a fair idea about the knowledges, but not that much of expertise. You can think about that, okay, let's hire that candidate and just give 1 month of time, 15 days of time, and make that candidate a proper suitable candidate. So this is the way basically you can fit a right candidate into the project requirement. So this is basically valid if you are not getting a proper candidate at the proper moment. If you are getting a good candidate as per your project requirement, I mean, you are good to go. So this particular things doesn't applicable during that time. Now, the backup planning. So as I said, right, the backup planning is a most critical item you should think all the time. Let's say today you have 5 members of team, and the 5 members of team basically may not be there on tomorrow because everybody aspired to do various things. The aspiration basically matters. Some people aspire to have a good salary. Some people about some specific technology, some specific teams. Okay, so you cannot trust the whole teammates that they would be with you forever, right? And so in that way, basically, you have to make a proper backup planning. You cannot make any candidate as a critical candidate or a critical resource inside a team. The moment you will just allow a candidate or allow a resource to be critical, the candidate, I mean, believe me, the candidate would try to exploit you. Okay, the candidate would definitely continue his journey or continue her journey with the dependency, and with that dependency basically the candidate would try to get all the benefit. The complete team spirit would be into the question mark. So always do not make any candidate or any resources to become a critical resources. Always plan for the backup, and planning should be a proper planning. Let's say that if you see a candidate is becoming a critical candidate and he has that particular knowledge, always ask a candidate, another junior resource who has similar abilities, to follow him, to make a shadow, okay, to do a shadow basically of that particular candidate. And as you are the lead, you are the driver, as project lead, as a team lead, you have to be strict. You have to be strict on that particular critical candidate. Hey, I want the other candidate should be prepared, and in case you are absent, he should handle the things. And you have to regularly monitor that particular thing. You have to take the report, and you have to evaluate that particular candidate as well. How much you have learned, what you know, and what you do not know. How much basically is the portion which you are not aware, which the other critical candidate is aware of. All these things basically should be into your mind, and in that way you can prepare a proper backup. And the moment you would be having a proper backup candidates, you won't care about the attrition. You won't care about whether a candidate is leaving the organization or leaving your team or not. Similar way, you as a lead, you as a project lead, you are a team lead, you should not be make yourself a critical as well. Always try to find some other alternate person who can fit into your role during your absence. You can always prepare the future leader, the future project lead or future team lead. In that way, the somebody else, somebody who is your junior, they are trying, or they would be able to grow up into the team and into the organization. And at the similar time, you can find some other challenges, and you can come out from your comfortable zone and make yourself into some other challenging role. So this should be the circle. One thing you must obey, that do not make anybody critical, whether it is you, whether it is the other teammates, however knowledgeable person he is, or however, I mean, client likes him or likes her. So this is one backup planning you have to do all the time as a project lead or as a team lead. Now, let's say that if you have been asked that, hey, can you form a team for with 5 freshers? So that time the task would be a little bit challenging, because you do not know that how the freshers would behave and how much depth basically they are having. Again, the same rule applies. Just find their attitude, try to evaluate their aptitude, and along with this aptitude and attitude, try to make a combination of the other parameters, like your the project fit, okay, like the knowledge, like the expertise, and you make the candidates, prepare the candidates, then prepare a plan how basically you can mentor them, how you can how you can just available for them at any point of time in case they need help. So at this particular way you can prepare a good team, and believe me, the moment you would be able to establish a successful, a good team, your pressure would be completely released. You would be the happiest man in the complete team. Okay, because everything basically the team would be doing for you. You would be just a silent catalyst. You would be doing the catalyst, and you would be filling wherever basically you are required. You do not have to fill all the gaps, right? So this is the proper details guide you can find a team selection. Now, above all these things, there is very strict parameter or strict rule about the communication. So from the starting, so whenever a management or whenever your boss actually ask about team selection, and HR basically ask about to select a candidate, you should be always communicate very clearly whether you are selecting a candidate, rejecting a candidate, whether the candidate has a proper right attitude, or candidate is lacking of the aptitude, candidate doesn't have the knowledge, or candidate cannot candidate becoming a critical resources. So every time you have to communicate to the candidates or to the resources properly, to the management properly. You can have a weekly meeting, you can have a daily meeting, okay, and in that proper communication channel you can see how much progress basically the team members are doing, right? You can generate the future leader, you can prepare, you can create the future leader, and you can create a best team with this particular communication mechanism. You can tell upfront that these are the things where you are lacking, you have to improve basically. Okay, and in case basically if you have been asked some challenging question that why a particular candidate you basically you didn't give, or you didn't hire, you didn't give a proper chance, you should have a proper justification, and you should have a proper justified reason that these are the lacks, and due to this particular lacking abilities we are not able to give the chances. But sometimes you have to you would be getting the pressure due to many other circumstances, due to any other parameters. So that time you should tell upfront to the management that okay, as per your advices, we are going to give a try and let's see that, but we would not take any guarantee for that. And after 2 months, if the candidate would remain same, then we would definitely rolling him off or rolling her off. But this particular communications are very required. And if you do not communicate, if you keep silent, then one fine day this whole things just would give you a reverse result, and your team won't be able to deliver. So this communication is very much required as well. So if I would say that this team selection is the key thing, as I have described. And inside the team selection, basically, I mean, before concluding, I would just try to one story. So we are basically one of the cricket most favorable game is for us is cricket, right? So one time in 2003, basically, when Saurabh Ganguly was selecting his team, or the management Indian selectors were selecting the team for Australia tour, that time Anil Kumble was not been selected, and that time Saurabh actually, entered into the boardroom, selectors room, and he told that unless and until Anil Kumble's name has been written into the total players list, I won't put my signature into that. And he waited for almost night 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. And eventually selectors told him that if Anil cannot perform, or you won't be able to perform, or Anil won't be able to perform, the first person basically who would be eliminated from the team, it's you, Saurabh, right? And Saurabh took that particular challenge on him, and he accepted. And believe me, Anil Kumble in that series in 2003 against Australia, he took a maximum number of wickets. I would say not maximum, but almost he was playing a very crucial role to make the series draw. So unless and until you have been given a proper team, do not bend down to anybody. And if you have to compromise, be a proper communicator. Communicate properly, and just highlight the challenges, highlight the benefits, and then you select your team, because the team is the base. The team is the foundation. If your foundation is weak, your delivery will be weak. If your delivery will be weak, you would be into full tensed mode, and everything won't be accepted by the management during that time. So before that particular situation arise, select your team properly with all these parameters today what we have discussed. So that's all, guys. I mean, now if you have any question, concern, please let me know.